Welcome to the Master Dealmaker's Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmaker's Secrets. I'm John Blake. This is episode 109, and today I'm going to talk to you about the three core elements of a high-performing sales management system. So this is something that I get called in to do for businesses a lot, and it is a really big step. Like, to get this right actually does take a few things, and I'm going to give you the three core things that you need to have in place for you to have a sales management system that really supports fantastic results and supports them on an ongoing basis. But first, if you have got leads in your pipeline, you want to convert more of those leads into sales, this is an asset that's sitting in your business. I've got the perfect tool to be able to extract as much as you possibly can from those leads that are outstanding. It is at johnblakeaudio.com. You'll get an audio training where I go through the precise strategy that you can use to double sales with your existing leads. This is the exact same strategy that I always start my high-ticket clients on. It works consistently, and that's what you want. You want consistent results in your business. So head over to johnblakeaudio.com, grab that. You'll also get a PDF that has the word-for-word email follow-up templates and phone scripts and a framework on when to call and when to email over a 90-day period. So when you put this in place, it will work brilliantly for you. It's also the type of thing that you can train somebody else in your business to use, and they don't have to be a highly skilled salesperson. They can just use what it is that you give them, and it'll give them a predictable result. So that is over at johnblakeaudio.com. So check that out, and I look forward to hearing your success story. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about the three core elements of a high-performing sales management system. So before we do that, this is, and I have touched on this in previous podcasts, but I don't think I've gone into it in quite as much depth as what I'm going to today. But the scenario is this. Often you find businesses that have got sales teams, and the culture in a sales team can often be really horrible. And the reason for that, I shouldn't laugh, but the reason for that is that salespeople they're like really good salespeople are actually quite difficult to manage. And you really do have to have a sales manager in place who actually is particularly skilled and has really good, high empathy and great emotional intelligence to really be able to manage a sales team well. So often what you find is high turnover, so you've got people coming and going. And what that means is that often you've got, maybe one or two top performers, and you've got two, maybe one or two mediocre performers, and then you've got usually a couple of stragglers that aren't going so well. And this can be avoided in a number of different ways. And I mean, essentially, you're looking at the acronym SITOMS, which I actually learned from my original business partner when I first started in consulting, 17 years ago. And SITOMS stands for selection. So how are we selecting our team? How are we inducting? So that's the I. How are we training them? And then how are we managing them and motivating them on an ongoing basis? And so there's this whole premise around sales management where they say, I want you to come in and motivate our guys. We need a motivational person to come in and motivate our guys, to stimulate activity. And the not so good news for a lot of business owners is that it's actually the opposite. What you really need to do is find salespeople who are already motivated and create an environment deliberately where they won't become demotivated. And often sales managers can be the reason why people leave. Often, they don't, you would have heard it, I'm sure. People don't leave businesses, they leave bosses, right? So if you can create a great environment, then your people will hang around. And there really are some great examples of this. And what I am going to do is share with you the common denominators that I have seen happen where there's good retention, people stay, and there is a high-performing system. So often what you find is you have high turnover of people in a sales team. The problem, of course, with that is that you don't have a lot of consistency. Your clients don't have consistency in terms of their experience. There's always someone new starting. They kind of roll their eyes and go, oh, God, someone new again, which is not good for your brand. You often have low performance because people are, still going through their training period and ramping up to a point where they are learning about your product and able to actually perform. There's massive cost associated with hiring and rehiring salespeople who are replacing the ones that have left. And ultimately what happens is, and I see this all the time, and often people unfortunately come to me after this particular problem has already happened and they've already got this problem, but it's where you have somebody who starts in a role, in a sales role. They get paid, maybe between $80,000 and $100,000, and plus super, plus a car, plus a phone, plus. And after 12 months, they haven't sold anything, and the business owner's 100 or so grand in the hole, and they've got nothing to show for it. So it's not a good situation. You've got and this shows up a lot. So how do we avoid it? How can we create a team where you have high performance, where you have largely a self-correcting, self-managed team, where you actually have high retention? Well, the key to that is, and I've already touched on the first part, which is selecting the right people in the first place, inducting them in the right way, because as when someone starts with you in a sales role, their first day, their first week, their first month, their first quarter with you, it shapes their tenure for the entire time that they're with you. So if you can start them off with really, really good habits, then they tend to keep those habits and they tend to perform well. And it's absolutely no coincidence whatsoever that when I start in an organisation and they've got somebody who has only been in the organisation maybe 2 days or a week or something, and I'm working with that particular person that's brand new in the sales team, that person tends to end up going really, really well. I've seen it happen time and time and time again over the 17 years that I've been doing this. So selecting the right person, inducting them in the right way, training them in the right way. So obviously having a high-performing sales process that isn't personality-based, it's systems-based. And what that means is that you can put somebody who has a great attitude in front of a process and they can get a predictable result, as opposed to a personality-based process that only certain people can kind of get away with saying or using. So there's a distinction there. But then beyond that, once they're actually in, your three core elements are goal setting, they are praise, so how are we rewarding people, and then there's reprimand, so how are we course correcting. So as it relates to goal setting, goal setting is crucial because you've got KPIs, right? So it's like, what is your minimum performance expectation that you need to achieve on this sales team? Because, we're here to create revenue, we're here to create numbers. So there needs to be a minimum performance expectation that everybody has to hit to keep their role on the actual team. And then there's some sort of a budget or, like a stretch target that they're hitting. So there's a minimum performance expectation, and there is a goal target or a stretch target that they're trying to hit. Then you have got their actual team expectations. So there needs to be a one team, one goal. So what is the collective goal that we're shooting for as a team? And then the other thing that often people don't look at, and it's so crucial, is it's actually talking to that person individually and getting them clear on a goal that's actually bigger than them, or something that they are excited about doing once they actually hit their goals. So what are their personal goals, and how can you link that particular person's personal goals with their business goals? Because people will work for a number, and certain people are really competitive and they'll work for a number, but people will be a lot more motivated to actually shoot for a number that's going to give them something personally that they're really passionate about getting. So for instance, somebody might be wanting to buy a new car. So you could link their monthly target or their quarterly target or their yearly target with them wanting to actually save up and buy a new car or take a holiday. So that's a really, really crucial part of it. So goal setting is individual KPIs, team goal, and minimum performance expectation. What is the minimum number that the person needs to hit for them to actually stay on the team? Because that's the other thing. If you've got these targets and no one in your sales team is actually hitting the targets, and there's no consequences of not hitting the targets, then at the end of the day, there's no real motivation for them to actually strive to hit a target. So it's a fine line. So that obviously the targets need to be achievable, but there needs to be a minimum performance expectation. And in interviews that I've done previously, not on this podcast, but previously, I've interviewed some high performers where they have what they call budgets and targets. So the budget is the minimum performance expectation, and the target is the thing that they're shooting for. And you might go 1 month where you might say, okay, well, look, everyone has a bad month. People get divorced, they get sick, things happen. So you might not hit your budget 1 month in a row, but then after the second month, then you might put them into some sort of performance management or some sort of a support system to ideally bring them back up into line so that they're in line with the rest of the team. So goal setting is a really, really crucial part of it. There is a whole bunch more that we could talk about in terms of goal setting, but I kind of wanted just to give you the main things around goal setting. The second one is praise. So in terms of praise, there needs to be a framework that you use, and it needs to be a consistent framework for delivering praise. Praise is great to be delivered in public, and some of this can be personality based. So some people might respond better to praise if you're praising them one-on-one, and other people might be more responsive if you're praising them in a team, in a public type forum. So understanding personalities there is increasingly more important in the teams that I deal with. Is understand the personality of the individual to work out how you're going to praise them. Are you going to do it one-on-one, or are you going to do it in a group? What are they going to respond best to? But ultimately, in terms of praise, we want to reward what we want repeated. So often sales managers or business owners can fall into this trap of just berating their team when they're not performing. Well, if you're only giving attention to the negative, then you're expanding the negative all the time. What you really want to do is look for the gold, look for the people who are performing, and put the spotlight on those people, because what you reward will get repeated, right? So that's a really, really crucial part of it as well in terms of praise. And then in terms of reprimand, you almost always want to, well, in fact, always you want to reprimand in private. You never want to reprimand somebody in front of the rest of the team or in front of a whole group. You absolutely need to have a framework for this, and the language that you use and the sensibility that you use when you're talking to somebody really does need to be tailored to the individual personality. So one of the things that we do in sales management is that we're very, very mindful of the personalities of the people that you're talking to, because people can be very sensitive around performance, and we need to know the right approach that relates to that particular personality. And of course, the other thing is that if someone is consistently performing below their minimum expectation, you need to have what we call a turnaround or terminate strategy. So that is a very supporting framework that we put around bringing somebody back up to minimum performance expectation within a predetermined time frame. In most cases, it's 30 days. And after that 30 days, we have supported that person in every single possible way that we can to bring them back up to their minimum performance expectation. So they are the three key elements of a high-performing sales management system. I've attempted to kind of give you as much as I can without overcomplicating it too much. The other two really important points is sales managers need to be coaches and mentors as opposed to what I call top-line revenue accountants. So too often a sales manager is, oh, you haven't hit your number, get out there, pull your, lift your game, otherwise, you'll be out or whatever, like that doesn't cut it anymore. If you want to retain people, if you want to retain good people, if you're actually doing a good job of selecting the right people, inducting them and investing in training, you want to keep them. So you need to have these frameworks in place. You need to have this stuff in place. And in terms of your induction and your training, you need to have them ramped up and actually ideally winning sales within weeks of them starting with you. So I hope that helps, especially if you've got a team or if you're thinking of hiring one. I hope this is going to be useful, and I very much appreciate you listening. It's been a slightly longer podcast, but I hope it's been valuable, and I, again, thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you on the next podcast. Cheers.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker's Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies to maximize your sales process with new episodes every week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive free no-fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.